Do stay with us. Coming up later.
Tomorrow it's not just about the rain, we're also very concerned about some strong wind gusts that we'll see through the afternoon. I'll have a full weather forecast for you later on in the programme.
Well, next, as we've been hearing, hundreds of people have been evacuated from their homes in towns and villages along the River Thames, and thousands more are at risk from rising water levels. 14 flood warnings remain in place in Berkshire and Surrey. That's where we can join our reporters who have been speaking to residents and businesses who spent another day trying to protect their properties. We'll talk to Tara Welsh in Datchet in just a moment. First, let's cross to Nick Beak in Chertsey for the latest there. Nick.
Good evening, Riz. Yes, this is a crucial location in the response to this major incident. All day long, the emergency services have been coming here, regrouping. They've then been allocated tasks and they've been going out and helping people in need in this county. So that means it's not just the fire and rescue service here who've been based here. Also the police, we can see that they've got a police boat here. This obviously has been one of the best ways of getting about today, and also the nature of this emergency means that the military on hand. You can see through the gloom there we've got the distinctive green of the military trucks and also soldiers. Some of them are from the Royal Artillery. Just 2 months ago they were patrolling under the heat of the Afghan sun. Today though, they've been helping people to get out of their homes in North Surrey, and the latest we hear is that some of the soldiers who you see here, they've just got back from an old people's home where they've been sandbagging that area because people can't leave. It's not just Surrey, of course, which is affected, Berkshire too, and we can get this report from Wraysbury, and that comes from my colleague Gareth Furby.
We're on a journey into the heart of Wraysbury's floods after dark. And we're here to find people who don't want to leave their homes, who are willing to stay put in a house that's flooded, cold, and could lose power at any moment.
Hello. Hi, Gareth, all right?
Ian Elliott invited us in. He built this house, and even though the water was inside and rising, he wasn't going anywhere.
We lost our heating here, but fortunately I've got a log burner. You stay in your home as long as you can, really. We'll take it day by day. We're quite happy here.
And across the road, we found Derek Mustill, who has even more reason to cherish his home. He shared it with his wife, Kay, who died from breast cancer 6 years ago.
Oh, it's desperate, isn't it? I mean, what can you do? I mean, when the house is fine and the weather's fine, there's nowhere else nicer. It's beautiful.
In some lights, there was some beauty in this flooded village. But later we found another emotion, fear. This was a patrol. Volunteers worried about possible looting.
Approaching people that we don't really know because it's now getting dark, a lot of houses are empty, and the possibility of people breaking in is high.
We've been taking calls all night long, I can't stress that, all night long, of scared people.
There were stories as well in the morning of people marooned in their homes. But the volunteers rallying in the primary school were determined to help. And we joined Mark Jones and Sam Imber as they were called to a family trying to arrange evacuation for a woman in her 70s.
My mum's 71 years old, she's got mobility restrictions, she can't get out.
Is everybody okay at the moment? I understand when I say okay, you're not okay, but nobody's in immediate danger. Okay, I understand it's very distressing. If you need us to come back with anything, if you need us to pick anything up for you, prescription, medication, anything like that, we can do that.
But the job of evacuation was too big. Fun was staying put for now.
Why do you want to leave?
Because of danger.
Danger. We've had no one come around here, no police, no EA, no one's come around.
The family say they'll call 999 if she deteriorates. The volunteers say they'll continue to work 24 hours a day. Gareth Furby, BBC London News.
Well, we're hearing tonight that 1,000 residents in the Penton Park area of Chertsey, not far from here, face the prospect of their power being switched off because of the flood water. And the likes of these guys may well be assisting them tonight. This is a search and rescue unit. They've just got a call. They're finding out their exact location, where they're going to be deployed to. An indication of how big an incident this is, Riz. Guys from Norfolk have arrived here tonight to help them.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. That was Chertsey in Surrey. Now let's join Tara Welsh, who's in Datchet in Berkshire. And what's the latest there, Tara?
Well, this is a village almost completely underwater. In fact, the only way to get around is by really high waders or by boat, as you can see. Now, the emergency services have been here today. They've been helping people get out of their homes, and businesses are mainly closed, but the ones that are open have been serving the emergency services and journalists, and I've been finding out how those businesses are coping today.
We opened the doors and we found water everywhere.
It was supposed to be the busiest week of the year, but rather than serving couples, staff here will spend Valentine's Day clearing floodwater from the restaurant.
It's financially devastating because we still have to pay out wages, and what are we going to do? We're not going to be open. So how are we going to get the money in? You know, as many, we was trying to think ideas, bring gondola to Datchet, trying to do something.
All the owner of the block can do is try to stop any more water getting in.
It's been a disaster, as you can see. I mean, sadly, we've recently bought this building and been trying to help all the shops. We had sporadic deliveries of bags, but the trouble is it was everyone dealing with it themselves. There was no central coordination.
Many of the shops in the village are now only accessible by boat. Even the businesses that haven't been affected by the floodwater yet have closed because customers can't get in, deliveries can't get through, and even the rail line is completely underwater. This hotel and restaurant is dry, but the cellar's flooded, so all bookings have been cancelled.
We don't know how long this is going to be like, so we've probably lost 2 weeks. So that's in the region of between 90 to 100,000. We would have lost over 2 weeks, and then plus any other future business that people are cancelling with us now.
Offices haven't escaped either. In Old Windsor, the staff that have made it in have had to help keep water at bay.
It's been a bit of a struggle sort of the last couple of weeks, because we knew that it was probably going to end up getting worse. But we sort of pre-prepared and moved everything that we had downstairs upstairs. But again, as you can see, we're really trying to sort of save what we can.
And for many companies across the southeast, it will be some time before it's business as usual. Well, this business here, it's a hotel and restaurant, and it tells me the army has just arrived and it's going to help them move all its furniture upstairs. Now, nothing is normal in this village at the moment. I spoke to a traffic warden earlier. I said, "Are you going to be ticketing cars?" And he said, "You've got to be joking, haven't you? There's much more important things to do." So they'll be helping volunteers give out sandbags to businesses and homes that need them a lot.
Tara from Datchet, thank you. Well, let's go back to Chertsey in Surrey, where we're joined by Detective Chief Superintendent Matthew Twist from Surrey Police. As we've been hearing, another extremely busy day for all the emergency services involved, so thank you for your time this evening. What's been the priority for you today?
The priority today has been very much about warning and informing people. So far today we've visited about 2,800 homes, on about 470 roads where there is the highest risk of flooding in Surrey. At present we've made about 350 evacuations during the course of the day, and very much the priority is to keep people safe.
Now, we heard earlier in the programme people in Wraysbury talking about the idea of getting volunteers to help prevent looting. Is that something you're aware of? How would you sort of reassure people about this fear of looting?
I think it's not something I'm aware of in Surrey. Certainly at the moment we've got over 100 dedicated officers and staff responding to this incident, and that's being maintained 24/7. They're working around the clock. It's not just the officers though, we've also got our partners from the other emergency services, the Army, the Environment Agency, all of whom are acting as our eyes and ears out on the ground. So I think in terms of the coverage and the information that we're getting, it's very good at the moment.
You mentioned there that, of course, you're working, round the clock with rising water levels and more rain on the way. This could go on for weeks, hopefully not months. But how resourced are you to cope with this situation, do you think?
I think at the moment that's one thing we started to focus on today is the actual resilience of this operation. We're taking steps now to ensure that we can keep up this state of preparedness and this number of resources dedicated to it over the next few days and weeks if necessary.
Now, people have been telling us, over the past week that they feel, stranded and abandoned. From your point of view, who's in charge of helping people? Is it the Environment Agency? Is it councils? Is it the police or the military?
This is very much a multi-agency response. Because it's been declared a major incident, we chair a strategic coordinating group twice a day where all of the partners, the emergency services, the military and the Environment Agency are represented, and we do that so we can share information and make sure that we get the best response possible and target the areas which are needed where they have the greatest need.
OK, Detective Chief Superintendent Matthew Twist from Surrey Police, many thanks. As I mentioned earlier, we know it's a busy day. Thank you for your time. Well, staying with the flooding, we can cross now to Paddington Station, where we're joined by Emma North with news on how the flooding is causing huge disruption to train services west of London. Emma, what more can you tell us?
Riz, services in and out of Paddington Station seems to have borne the brunt of all the problems associated with these floods. At one point last night, all but 2 services out of the station were cancelled, and the problem seems to be getting worse rather than better. At Maidenhead at 6:45 this morning, there was a train. But nobody was getting on it. Instead, everyone waited.
They've got 8 buses.
And waited. And waited a little more. For buses that didn't seem to arrive.
Rubbish, absolute rubbish. I just have to laugh about it because otherwise you just get wound up and stressed about it. So I've been standing here for about an hour and 35 minutes now.
I'm just freezing. I just feel like they could have communicated a lot better with us.
We need to get to work. I mean, we don't want to put our jobs at stake.
This is what the problem seems to be. Groundwater bubbling up last night onto the railway at Maidenhead. As for the operators, they're facing scenes like this along dozens of routes. This is Reading.
We've got water that has got into Network Rail's signalling and safety equipment, which means we've got no signal or safety equipment into or out of Paddington.
The cost of the damage so far has been put at £100 million, but only once the levels drop will the full extent become clear. But we've already been warned the repairs could take months. Well, in the light of all this disruption, many rail operators are advising that if you are trying to use those services, please don't unless absolutely necessary. But for those of us compelled to use the trains, this is what we believe to be the latest. On First Great Western between London, Paddington and Reading, there is a reduced service. There's a maximum of just 4 trains an hour instead of the usual 25. Delays applying along the whole route there. Between London, Paddington to South Wales, Exeter and Bristol, there is a reduced service there too. First Great Western are saying that passengers' tickets will be accepted on other networks, however. Secondly, looking at South West trains between Staines, Windsor and Eton Riverside, that service is suspended until at least the end of this week. There's a partial bus replacement though. This is disrupted too because those roads are flooded. And finally, with Southern, East Croydon, East Grinstead and Uckfield, services among all those stations are disrupted due to a landslip. This will take a week to repair, we're being advised, but tickets are accepted on buses. Looking at the roads, well, no one will be terribly surprised by Staines, Egham, Chertsey, Shepperton and Walton-on-Thames and Purley, and all those are being affected. Minor roads too are still being severely affected. Once again, the advice is check with your BBC local radio station for regular updates. The picture does seem to be getting a little bit clearer though. It's not a good one. This situation is with us for several days to come. Riz.
From Paddington, Emma, thank you. And of course, don't forget, you can keep across all the very latest on the floods and travel situation by tuning into our radio stations. And tomorrow morning, BBC Radio Surrey will be hosting a special programme from a flood rescue centre in Runnymede.